In the village of Adam, where the river Kwaku wound its way through the dense forest, Mirembe was known as the best fisherwoman in the entire community. From dawn till dusk, she would row her canoe along the river banks, casting her nets with precision, her arms strong from years of work. She had learned the ways of the river from her mother, who had taught her how to read the currents, how to listen to the birds that sang above the water, and how to respect the spirits that watched over the river. But Mirembe's life was not easy. Raised by her mother after her father had left them when she was just a child, she had learned that men could never be trusted. Her mother, a gentle and hardworking woman, had carried the weight of both parents, providing for Mirembe and herself, and the memories of her father's abandonment left scars that Mirembe carried in silence. She vowed never to rely on any man, and as she grew older, she became known for her sharp tongue and strong independence. The villagers would often speak of Mirembe in hushed voices. She was admired for her skill, yet there was an unease around her, a distance that none could cross. It wasn't that Mirembe was unkind, but rather that her fierce independence had made her a figure both respected and feared. She often dismissed the advances of the young men in the village, not out of cruelty, but because she believed that love, like the river, would only pull her under and drown her. One day, a stranger arrived in Adom. His name was Kofi, a fisherman from a village downstream. He had heard tales of Mirembe's skill and had come to meet her to ask if she would consider joining him in teaching the villagers new fishing techniques that he had learned from elders far away. He was a quiet man, tall and broad shouldered, with kind eyes that spoke of wisdom and patience. He wasn't like the other men who had come before, full of pride and bravado. Kofi was different, and Mirembe knew it. On his first visit, Kofi came to her by the river bank, carrying a bundle of dried fish as a gift. Mirembe, I have heard much of your skill with the nets, he said. Perhaps we could share knowledge. I bring new ways of fishing that might help our people gather more fish during the dry seasons. Mirembe eyed him warily, her gaze sharp. She took the fish, but said nothing. She had heard promises like this before, from men who came with grand ideas only to leave when their plans didn't work out. I don't need any man's help to catch fish, she finally said, her voice firm. I've been fishing with my mother since I was a girl. I know the river well. Kofi nodded, unfazed by her words. I understand, but it's not about me helping you. It's about us working together, learning from each other. Mirembe turned her back on him and began to load her canoe with the fresh fish she had caught that morning. I don't need anyone, she muttered to herself. But Kofi wasn't deterred. He returned the next day and the day after that, always with respect and patience. He would offer small gifts like bundles of dried fish or baskets of fruit, and each time he would speak gently of the new techniques he had learned. Slowly, Mirembe began to notice something different about him. He was not like the other men who tried to impress her with their boast or their strength. Kofi didn't ask for anything in return, nor did he expect anything from her. He simply offered his knowledge. One afternoon, after a long day on the river, Mirembe found Kofi sitting by the water, his fishing rod resting by his side. He was staring at the horizon where the sun was setting in a blaze of red and orange. Mirembe, who had never taken the time to watch the sunset, sat beside him. You never stop working, do you? Kofi asked, his voice quiet but filled with curiosity. Mirembe glanced at him, her gaze softening. I don't have the luxury of stopping. The river doesn't wait for anyone. Kofi nodded. True. But sometimes, when you stop and look at the world around you, it gives you the strength to keep going. Mirembe was silent, her thoughts racing. She had always been so focused on survival, on making sure she never needed anyone, that she had never truly stopped to appreciate the simple beauty of life. After that day, something inside her began to shift. She still didn't trust easily, but Kofi's presence no longer felt like an intrusion. In the evenings, he would walk her back to a small hut by the river, and they would share stories about their childhoods, their dreams, and the lessons they had learned from the river. Kofi's calm and gentle manner began to break through the walls Mikrembe had built around herself, but she fought it, refusing to admit that there was something more growing between them. One day, as Mirembe was preparing to set out for the river early in the morning, Kofi arrived with a large bundle of woven baskets. These are for you, he said, smiling. I've been working with the women from my village. They taught me how to make baskets for carrying fish, and I thought you might need them. Mirembe felt a warm flutter in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years. Thank you, she said softly, though she quickly looked away, not wanting to show too much emotion. I'll use them. As the days passed, Kofi's offer of help grew more and more. He didn't try to change her methods of fishing, but he showed her how to use new tools and techniques that made her work easier. Still, Mirembe resisted. She didn't want to admit that she needed anything from him or from anyone. Yet, with each passing day, her resistance began to fade. She realized that she was no longer fishing just to survive. There was something deeper, something about the river, about Kofi, about life itself, that made her feel whole again. Then one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Kofi asked her a question that she had been avoiding for months. Mirembe, will you marry me? Mirembe froze, the question hanging in the air like the stillness before a storm. She had always believed that relying on a man meant giving up her freedom. But as she looked into Kofi's kind eyes, she realized that this was not the same as her past. She was not being asked to surrender. She was being asked to stand side by side with someone who respected her strength, her independence, and her dreams. Tears welled up in Mirembe's eyes, and for the first time in her life, she allowed herself to be vulnerable. Yes, she whispered. The village of Adam rejoiced when Mirembe and Kofi were married. It wasn't just a celebration of love, it was a recognition of the strength it took for Mirembe to open her heart, to trust again, and to realize that sometimes it was okay to need someone. Together, Mirembe and Kofi built a life that honored both their strengths, their dreams, and their respect for each other. From that day forward, Mirembe no longer feared the river's currents. She had learned that love, like fishing, required patience, trust, and an open heart. And sometimes the greatest catch was not the fish, but the person who would stand beside you through every storm.